Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
Once again, Maulana Timol will be doing the annual Qurbani. Many people in the villages live well below the poverty line and only eat meat on the days of Eid al-Adha. Support this cause at 1,785 Rand for 7 shares or 255 Rand per share. Contact Maulana Timol, Maulana Sajjad, Maulana Hamad or Maulana Abbad on 011 852 6324 or 8613. or 072-299-9268. All slaughtering will be supervised by a team of ulama. Visit www.operationqurbani.org.za.
Penny Appeal Love Palestine campaign. Let us stand in solidarity and create an awareness of the plight of the people of Palestine. Support our initiative in providing medical assistance and food security. Donate towards our urgent appeal with your zakat, sadaqah, or lillah. Visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal Love Palestine. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back, and as mentioned, now I'm joined by Chief, well, I don't know if it's Fire Chief or it should be Fire Chief, Waynan Engelbert, and he's CEO of Fire Ops. Good afternoon and welcome to Salam Media, Waynan. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, Waynan, and welcome to Salam Media. And I have joining me from Amana, who does all the claims, in charge of all the claims. It's Yunus Nana. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome, Yunus, as well.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So tell us, Chief Waynan, I was so pleased that we actually came across a private, and it's an NPO as well, but a private fire service providing firefighting services, and that is Fire Ops. So tell us a little bit about Fire Ops and the services that you provide.
Mariam, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. The NPO division is a separate division altogether. We have a public company and a private company, or a non-profit and a private company. And so the private company is the one that is delivering the services in the city. And so we founded this company 3 years ago when it was clear that the Johannesburg Fire Department wasn't able to do what it's supposed to do in terms of its municipal mandate. And we've been going from strength to strength. We've got a couple of fire stations already in the city, opening the 4th one now in the end of this month in Rosebank. We have 46 firefighters on payroll, and we have 12 vehicles, of which 5 are tactical firefighters.
Yes, you're quite right. I actually contacted because I wanted Johannesburg, a representative from Johannesburg Emergency Services to come on air to tell us what is the state of our fire engines in terms of a service, state of personnel in terms of do they have enough personnel per fire station, as well as the state of the fire hydrants. As you heard my interview with Fatima, when emergency services arrived 2 hours later, there was an issue with the fire hydrant. They couldn't access the water, and then they had to get another fire truck, which according to her, they had to join here so they could have access to water. But all the while, she was most complimentary about the services you offered her on the scene there and to her family, and the aftercare that Fire Ops did in terms of phoning the family, checking on them. So basically a complete before and after service. Tell me, in terms of what is the state, for me, you are in the field, what is the state of our emergency services when it comes to firefighting in the city of Johannesburg and surrounds?
I've so often repeated it, I can say it up in my sleep. They have 30 fire stations. They in fact opened a new fire station last week. They have 30 fire stations. They pay salaries to 1,750 bodies, which gives them approximately 400 per shift. But they've got 3 fire engines now, and they claim they have 7 vehicles. The one is an air truck, which carries breathing apparatus. Then there's a hazmat unit. Then there is the major rescue unit, which is built or equipped for emergencies or disasters such as earthquakes. It can't even do an extrication from a car wreck. And so they just don't have rescue equipment that is accredited. The equipment is in quite a state, and so on. And so last week, I think they showed the city 3 new vehicles that they'd gotten. So between the morning talks and the evening talks, they've got between 3 and 6 fire engines for 30 stations. Anybody can try and do the math and see how you fit in those engines into 30 stations. So they're just under-equipped. They are supposed, Miriam, to have over 112 fire engines of different kinds. They have gone out on tender every single year. As the new administrations came in, they would attempt another tender and another tender and another tender. And we hear about all these vehicles that they order all the time, but they just never arrive. But the hardware isn't their problem as much as the disorganization. They are not organized. They absolutely fall short in how to run a fire brigade. They're a city, and if you compare them with cities like Los Angeles and Cape Town and Santiago and New York, you'll see how far they fall short. They're not a city fire brigade at all. In fact, on any given day, we could probably deal with more incidents than they can. And so how is it possible? How is it possible that all the rates and taxes are just going down the tubes? Is it because the service is simply on a par with the other services like streets and street lights and electricity and water? Speaking of which, I must give them credit. The hydrant issue is a city engineer issue. The city engineer was given this work, water department, to maintain hydrants many, many, many years ago already, just after the first administration came in the democracy. And so the firemen don't have to maintain fire hydrants. And so they can blame the engineering department, and the engineering department can blame the politicians, and so on and so on.
So when I've got Yunus Nana there. He's an underwriter, a senior underwriter at one of the insurance brokerage companies, Amana. And I hope he's listening, because the thing is, Yunus, is it about time now that insurance companies will be looking to companies such as Waynans fire up in terms of fire, because surely they do have the capacity, the skills and know-how to manage fires? Because if you're going to wait for 2 hours for emergency services to arrive only to find out that their own hydrants are not serviced, by then our house is rubbish. I mean, this is going to cost insurance companies a lot more. Will you consider partnership as medical aids have with private paramedics and ambulance in terms of partnering with us? Because if I know I'm insured and then my insurance company is contracted to somebody like Fire Corps, I'd sleep better at night knowing I have professionals who come to assist us like this. It's something will the insurance industry consider?
Thank you for having me on the show, Miriam. Yes, look, it would be definitely advisable to have somebody else to assist, especially in terms of firefighting, because that is a big concern as far as the city of Johannesburg is concerned. And also, we need to look at alternatives. So having alternatives that we could always look back at, that can always save us from devastation and also saving lives. I mean, that's important.
Okay, and then what does it cost? So if I then decide there is a fire and call on fire ops to come and extinguish a fire, and that, does it depend on the scope of the fire? What is the costing? What are you looking at in terms of coming to put out a fire?
Yeah, look, of course, the amount of effort that is required for an industrial fire is different from that for a residential fire. The amount of equipment and the type of equipment needed for a commercial fire is different than that from an industrial fire. And so let's say that the ultimate bill for a house fire could be somewhere between maybe 2,500 rand, 12,500, 20,000 at the very, very most, depending on how long we work there. An industrial fire could probably be between 20,000 and 60 or 100,000 rand, depending on what we used, and so on. And then the property owner simply passes that on to the insurer or the broker. And in 3 years, we've never had a claim refuted as far as the firefighting costs were concerned. So the insurer would pay the homeowner, and the homeowner pays the money over to us. And in some instances, there are at least 3 insurers that pay us directly when they've received the bill. So those are the costs. Then there's, of course, the matter of signing up with us. We would prefer to service clients that are already members of our operation. But after 3 years, you can't expect a city to be signed up with us. So we've got residential clients, and residential cost runs from 35 rand per month. And a massive mall, for instance, or a high-rise building in the city could cost around 3,000 rand a month, depending on how you're looking at it. And then there are the very special operations, special factory industrial problems that create or present real challenges to us. Those can raise far, far higher.
So for this 35 Rand a month, what do we qualify as, or what benefits I as a residential homeowner will get if we sign up with FireOps?
Well, the very first thing is you get access to the fire reporting app. And people are tired of apps, and I know that, but that's the way the world goes. And so we have a fire reporting app that if you use that, you can get through to the crew within 60 seconds. 60 seconds from the caller to the crew. Moment we receive the call from you, we swing the keys and we respond. So we get out of the fire station, we call them patches. We get out of the patch in 60 seconds after we've received the information. And at nighttime, it's 90 seconds, and we hope to be inside of the property within 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll dwell on that a little bit later. The next thing you also get is, if you don't want to use the app, you can get our emergency telephone number, which then you dial directly through to our watch room, and you can get as much advice as you want from us as a homeowner. We advise people on how to make thatches safe. Thatch is a big problem. It's a massive problem. People underestimate and misunderstand thatch. And if you really have a situation with LPG or gas, we will, as a homeowner, we will definitely just stop over and help you and give you advice. So there's an open channel that's created for the homeowner. And as we then as we proceed, say to a block of flats or to a lifestyle development, those fees will go down for the homeowner. So if we say, for instance, we have an estate that has 600 properties, it'll go way, 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 way down into almost pennies. So the monthly fee is highly negotiable. And if Auntie Gertie says in Maitland that she in Mayfair that she can't pay 35, she can only give us $7 a month, we'll accept that too.
Let me bring.
The income model. Yeah.
I'd like to bring Yunus in here because Yunus, just as we have our high-end vehicles or vehicles that cost a certain amount of value, if I have a tracking device in there, my insurance premiums are reduced quite a bit substantially. So with something like this, insurance companies consider that if I take out a monthly fee worth for my residential property for 35 million a month. Would that something be insurance companies look in terms of doing that? Our household owners policy would be reduced. The fact that I have somebody that we linked up with fire ops, something like fire ops, which gives you the service so that if you have a fire, help is there. As Waynan said, within 15 to 20 minutes, they on the scene, or maybe sooner.
Absolutely true what Reynard is saying and what you are saying. So obviously you're helping the insurance company. So by having something like this, I'm definitely positive that we can get cheaper premiums in terms of fire from the insurance company. It's like your tracking device, like you just mentioned earlier. To have a tracking device in the vehicle definitely brings down the risk of theft on the vehicle. So likewise, in this instance, it can also do wonders in terms of fires, and it can save lives, because that is the most important thing today with fires, where you got devastation and the entire property burns down, and it doesn't take long, like Reynard was just mentioning, especially when there's a theft, when there's a thatch, a roof involved, the fire just spreads wildly and obviously becomes a big problem. So in terms of insurance, it will definitely bring down the fire premium for that particular customer.
So Waynan, back to you. I'd just like to know, in the areas that you operate, are you only based in the Gauteng area, or is fire ops a national operation, a national private company?
The name of the company is Fire Operations SA, because the intent is to go national. We are already working in the Middle East. I mean, we work wherever we are called to. We take on contracts. We've at the moment got a major contract up in Roslyn in Tshwane, where I've got 12 firefighters. I've had them there for 3 months already. So we work nationwide, but for first responses at the moment, it is the Johannesburg footprint. And just to come back to what Eunice had said, I appreciate your sentiments, Eunice. I've dealt extensively with SAIA and with a number of the insurers and a whole lot of brokers. I mean, we advise brokers daily on industrial risks, fire risks, and so on. And I think the time has come for a very specific, purpose-built fire policy, where a percentage of at least of the bill is covered under that policy for a few pennies maybe. And there are brokers working on that and insurers working on it. So after 3 years, there's been a whole lot of homework that has been done in this regard. It's not an easy road though. It's a bit of a tough one. But I think we're getting there slowly, yes.
Yes, because in my mindset that I look at it, I've got medical aid, and from the medical aid, I have we contracted to a private paramedics and ER24 based on my medical aid. At home, we know the police, well, we've known this for many, many years. Police don't have capacity to protect me in terms of proactive monitoring. So hence, we pay for private security, and that's why I'm just thinking, for me, it makes sense that I'm again proactive when it comes to fire and align myself with a company like Fire Ops, because I know if there's a fire, there is, Eunice kept on saying, more than the livelihood, the importance of saving lives. In my area, 2 streets down, I live in a vicinity that you get a fire station in Rosebank, as well as the Roosevelt one was halfway. None of them were operational on that night. Within 20 minutes, one of the neighbors lost their home, lost their pets that were very dear to her. Those pets were her family. She lost her pets in the fire because the fire engine arrived 2 hours later on the scene, because the fire engine had to be dispatched from Roodepoort. So really, that's what got me thinking. We just spoke to Fatima and them. So and also, the fact that electrical fires, due to surges that are happening with city power and issues with cable theft in it, electrical fires is a very real reality. It's not even a perceived threat. As you know, I'm sure you're putting out a lot of fires that have started with electricity, and that is due to surges. We just had an incident with our Maritzburg masjid. that caught on fire, and this was directly attributed to the electrical surge. You're nodding your head. I'm sure you're aware of it. So this is not a luxury anymore. I mean, me paying 35 rand to fire up is not a luxury, but it's a real necessity, especially when we look at electrical fires. Waynan, am I just speaking off the cuff, or is this the reality that you face?
Now, everything that you're saying is precisely true. I mean, we respond to between 3 and 5 incidents per day, which are fires and rescue calls. We have 3 sets of jaws of life. In other words, we are 3 times better off than the city because they just don't have a set that is, and they'll say, yeah, they got one last week. They always got something last week. We have got 3 sets of jaws of life that are certified by the OEM to be in order. And so we respond to 3 calls per day on average, whether they are fires or rescue calls. And fire calls, I can tell you now that we've attended to at least 6 gas situations in the last few months, meaning 3 months. And electrical fires we just encounter daily. And it's not just in the home, it's also council's property. We fight fires in transformers and in mini subs on the pavement. And we put out fires in the assets of City Power just daily. It's daily. So the whole Eskom problem is it's real. It's here. It's right here. It's arrived. We're not waiting for it. It's here.
I've run out of time. I would love to have continued this discussion with Yunus as an underwriter from Amana ISF, as well as Chief Waynan Engelbert from the CEO of Fire Ops. But thank you. You know what? It's no sense even interviewing emergency services and asking them when we need to accept the realities. They don't have the capacity, the management of the whole emergency services when you come to the fires is basically non-existent. There are many loopholes in that system, and I think we just need to accept this is what it is. And fortunately, we have alternatives, and please look into those alternatives. And I think insurance companies have to go the route of medical aids in terms of saying this is what it is. We can't rely on the ambulance service and paramedics of the cities that provide, although, I mean, they take our rates and taxes, and what to do with it, that's a fight for another domain in section. But in the meantime, we need to save lives, we need to save livelihoods, and I think insurance companies can get on board. And Waynan, we wish you all the strength, and hopefully you can expand nationally to provide a much needed service as well. Thank you for the time, both Yunus Nana and Waynan. May you be under the mercy and protection of the Almighty. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you very much.
Good day to all. Thank you, Yunus.
And that is a wrap for Mid-Morning Talk. We just slightly over time. We started a bit late, but I felt this was an important conversation we need to start having. And we pray that this winter and forever, please be mindful. Please, as Dr. Fatima Osman said, keep fire extinguishers at home. Know what's happening. Know who to contact. Please stay safe